Hi gang, the joy of football, one short of the century. And on today's podcast, we need to talk about the rebirth of number nines.
We've got three of the best and we've probably got 99 different players, most of them Neil's. I've got three, young player, old player and player.
And he's got a very old player in Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry, the most league appearances in Premier League history, James Milner.
And we have feedback. Well, we love to hear what you want us to talk about and your questions. We always do what we can to answer them. We'll have a go again today.
And finally, stoppage time. Yes, the joy of football is everywhere this year. Please remember, if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe. If you want to get closer to it, Patreon. And if you want to read Martin and my writings, you can go to substack.com, where we do it under The Joy of Football. The Joy of Football podcast. With me, Neil Barnett.
And with me, Martin Tyler.
Looks rush shot in! Rooney! Aguero!
The Joy of Football. Hello. The Joy of Football podcast with Martin Tyler, the greatest commentator in the world, and me, Neil Barnett, is 99 episodes old today. And I think we mention more players and more clubs than we have in any of the previous 98.
No, I'm sure there are more than 99 players going to get a mention today as well. So there'll be something in it for everybody.
Let's go. First segment, we need to talk about Martin. There has been a rebirth of your precious, glorious number nines. As we speak, these are the top scorers in the Premier League this season. 22 goals, Erling Haaland, a number 9. 17 goals, Thiago, a number 9. 13 goals, the odd one out, Semenyo. 11 goals, João Pedro, a number 9. And 10 goals, Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
A definite number 9.
Ekitike and Gyökeres, all number 9s.
In position, that's what we're saying, in case anyone takes it literally about the numbers that they wear. It's whether it's a coincidence or whether the game has changed or not, the type of signings that have been made. I mean, Semenyo could play as a central striker. He's certainly got the physique and all the tools for that particular job. And João Pedro, who probably prefer to play as a number 10, has certainly gone into that main striking role for Chelsea. You've seen plenty of that. Calvert-Lewin looks the real business again, which is great for him personally, for Leeds and for England, I would suggest. And Gyökeres is on the back of a couple of goals in the North London derby, with his place in the team being in doubt. Not that he's a main central striker, of course. That's what he is. Starting to do what he has been doing since he left English football in the first place. So I can't put my hat on a particular reason as to why it happens. Certain players have certain qualities, and sometimes they are masked by being asked to play in different positions. But what we're getting at the moment is interesting. We're talking about Erling Haaland on the back of Nico O'Reilly getting 2 goals to beat Newcastle, but also on the back of Pep Guardiola coming out and saying, look, I criticise Erling sometimes. He was, despite Nico's goals, he was the man of the match today. I've told him afterwards that we wouldn't have won the game without him. And that is also justification of playing that particular type of player. Obviously, he's the number 1 in the world at what he does. And maybe that's helping as well, that he's showing that other clubs can, they've taken other leads from Pep Guardiola's playbook, haven't they? Maybe this is one that they're starting to realise. Thiago could have been here a year earlier. He was injured. He's certainly, he absolutely looks the part. And as I say, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is what he has been sort of 3 years ago. So that's a great recovery and renaissance from him.
I took a year at random 4 years ago, season 2021-22. The top scorers were that season, sharing the golden boot in the Premier League, Mohamed Salah and Son Heung-min, 23 goals. Neither are centre-forward. Cristiano Ronaldo, who played centre-forward for Manchester United, 18, and Harry Kane, 17. But after that, Sadio Mane, 16. 15, Kevin De Bruyne, Diogo Jota, Jamie Vardy, centre-forward. 14, Wilf Zaha. 13, Raheem Sterling at Manchester City. 12, Jarrod Bowen, James Maddison, Ivan Toney,
a centre forward.
Yeah. But I mean, very few centre forwards in the top scorers 4 years.
Yeah, maybe the shape of the game has changed a little bit. That was probably the height of the passing and looking for different ways to score goals. Midfield players in there. Kevin De Bruyne, obviously, a law unto himself, really. A wonderful player. Diogo Jota played pretty much as an attacker, so he would probably come into the category. And Pukki of Norwich, who was a central striker, he gets mentioned further down the list. Ollie Watkins is in there. Richarlison, then with Everton.
But Riyad Mahrez is in there, Mason Mount, Rafinha, who was playing on the wing for Leeds.
Emil Smith-Rowe, James Ward-Prowse, so not strikers. Yeah, I mean, it's personally, obviously, when you're 6'3" and had a go at playing football, you love the big number 9s, and whether it's a rebirth or the wheel goes around, doesn't it? And there's very little ever that's not been done before. Laughing about the long throw, and the long throws in the 60s and 70s, we can remember that. It's nothing new. It's probably just been out of the top flight for a good period. So yeah, long may it continue. I like the balls going into the box. I feel that teams don't, if they're in trouble, they're reluctant to do what's seen as unsophisticated basic, stick numbers in the penalty area and try and put the ball in there and put pressure on the goalkeeper and the centre backs.
It's not just that, is it? It's getting the ball in the penalty area early.
Well, for a forward's point of view, it's essential early. The best crossers are centre forwards who find themselves wide, who know the job. Alan Shearer was brilliant at it, getting the ball in early, and when he'd like to have been in both positions, of course, on the end of his own crosses, but plenty of
Erling Haaland supplied one of Nico O'Reilly's.
Brilliant, wasn't it? Yeah, really hung up and a fine header. And Nico O'Reilly, just going off message a bit on this subject, but he has been a midfield player most of his career with the capacity to do that. He did find himself able to score goals from playing left back, which he's done for most of his Manchester City first team career. So yeah, there's one who really is going to be, I think, a force both for Manchester City and England.
But
for a long
can
time.
we say centre forwards are back?
I'd love to say that every day of the week, really. Yeah, why not? I think there's more. My personal feeling about getting two forwards, playing with two forwards. We talked about Leeds doing it with Metcher and Calvert-Lewin, particularly in their home game against Chelsea, which was back in December now. They haven't done the same since because Metcher's been out. Other players have come in. They've more played around Calvert-Lewin than right up with him. But that was a lovely night for those with nostalgia for, I can't imagine. I was ordinary enough playing with another striker. Imagine playing on my own up there. It was a terrible job to do for a striker. So I'd like to think that will come back because people are terrified of being played through midfield. It's probably less likely to be so. But let's look at this as fans. I can't put words in your mouth, Neil, but as a football fan, I'm delighted the number 9s are doing well.
And just behind those top scorers, Brian Mbeumo, who was a number 10 for much of the season, but is now a number 9 again. And Danny Welbeck.
Danny Welbeck got a typical number 9 goal, didn't he, in Brighton's latest success. And he's nearly into double figures again, which he did last season and hadn't done, I think, once before in his career, something like that. So he's having I don't know what you call it, an Indian summer.
Renaissance.
Well, it's more than that. It's the reward for looking after yourself. And of course, there's massive financial incentives for footballers to continue their careers for as long as possible at the highest level. So I would say, Danny's got to keep scoring goals, really, to justify his place. And He's it's not a purple patch. It's much longer than that.
So, from number 9s to all the 3s, this is 3 of the best.
And he makes them pay.
3 of the best. He's made them pay. And that completes a wonderful hat-trick.
3 of the best: young player, old player, player. I've got hundreds of them. Martin, your young player this week.
Well, he's a young player as we speak in terms of our limitations on it, up to and including 24. As we speak, he'll be 25 tomorrow. So, and what I'm talking about in his achievements is happened while he was still 24, and that's Anthony Gordon, who, of course, scored those 4 goals for Newcastle in Karabakh in Azerbaijan against the team, Newcastle winning 6-1, against a team that drew with Chelsea. I commentated on that game. They were very competitive, the local side. They'd beaten Benfica as well.
Beat them away at Benfica.
Yeah. Anthony Gordon tore them to shreds. In doing so, he took his tally into double figures for the Champions League this season with his 4 goals. He's overtaken Alan Shearer, of course, wasn't in the Champions League every season in his time at Newcastle. Actually, before the game, Anthony was asked about playing and going well in the Champions League, and he said the football's more open. Most teams want to try and play and try and win, and therefore it suits him with his pace. And of course, he played as a central striker, not what you call a number 9 with back to the goal. Facing the goal is his skill, pace. And there was a little bit of negativity because he took both of the penalties, which Kieran Trippier didn't think perhaps he was entitled to do. But I see that as a plus. I see that single-mindedness. You know, I want more. I want to do it. Where he's probably a bit short, I think he's only scored 3 Premier League goals this season. So, you know, it's a bit of an imbalance, one in the FA Cup as well. But he's one of those who's, you know, fighting for a regular berth in the club football, of course, because there's a lot of competition, especially with Harvey Barnes coming back and doing well, but to be in the England squad as well. But this was an outstanding individual display. It's just something that it can pass you by. We have so many games, you know, sometimes we don't stop and draw breath and say, wow. I was actually commentating the same night on Bodø Glimt against Inter, and more of that in a moment. And the message kept going through. They scored again. Newcastle scored again. Gordon scored again. He's got 4 by half time. You know, it's very special, and it shouldn't be lost in the hurly-burly of fixture after fixture after fixture. So just by age limitation, Anthony Gordon is my current young player. Yeah.
Nice. I've got loads. And the reason is that in the last decade, football's changed so much. And now so many clubs buy young in order to develop. But in years gone by, the top clubs, you wouldn't expect them to buy many players under the age of 23, 24, because they wanted ready-made people to come and challenge or be in the first team. So we've always had this cutoff of 24. So I thought I'd look at the top clubs, the top 6 clubs, as we speak in the Premier League, and see how many regulars they have under the age of that. So starting with Arsenal, at the back, they've got Timber, Saliba and Hincapie, who are all 24. Calafiori, 23. And attacking Saka and Martinelli, 24, Madueke, 23, but no real youngsters. Man City have Aït-Nouri and Guardiola at the back, 24. Kusanov's playing more, 21. And attacking Cherki, 22, O'Reilly, 20, and Doku, 23. O'Reilly's the real youngster there. Villa have Martson and Rogers, 23, Anana, 24. Man U have Lamens and Ahmad, 23, Dorku, 21, injured now, Yoro and Ugarte, 20, but really it's the 23. Ahmad's a real youngster. Dorku, rather, is a real youngster. Chelsea have Gusto, 22, Santos, 21, Palmer, 23, Caicedo, 24, Pedro, 24. But again, not that many youngsters starting regularly. Not
they're the team of youngsters. Yeah. They're the team that haven't had a 30-plus-year-old for a season, and whatever we're into this, and all of last season and all of this season so far.
And Liverpool, struggling a bit to catch up with the Champions League places, have the most. Kirkes and Bradley and Wirtz all 22, Gravenberch 23, Ekitike 23. They're actually looking very young.
Well, Rio and Gamoa, who's turned 17 during the course of the season, and he's getting more time. I do think it's the consequence of you tend to, if you're in trouble and maybe like your season's gone a little bit, as the Wolves have found themselves, you've got Matthias Mane playing every game and an outstanding teenage talent. So it's slightly distorted. You wouldn't include Estevao, I would, for Chelsea.
Because he's not started that many league games. Yeah, I mean, the standout one, when you look through that, who's playing every game and impressing, is O'Reilly at 20. Nico O'Reilly, I think.
Yeah, well, you're limiting it to the top six. And there are. It is very hard for coaches who are sweating on results to do anything other than live up to that phrase that Alan Hansen memorably said, you win nothing with kids. And then Man United, and he's seen the funny side of that, Alan, for decades. That, of course, they won plenty with kids. But I think people look at that and say that was an exceptional generation.
Yeah, and
because
also,
they were home produced.
And also, the spine had no kids. Really, it was Schmeichel. It was still Bruce and Pallister. It was Roy Keane, and up front was Andy Cole by then. Big son.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And
it was said around 1996. But as fans, again, we love the young players coming through, the potential. But of course, it's a fantastic level to get your chance even to play a few minutes in, to maintain a spot from a very young age.
You say we love our youngsters coming through. I remember in the 1990s writing a piece in the Chelsea programme castigating the supporters for not giving the youngsters enough opportunities through mistakes to develop and not enough understanding and getting a lot of support for writing it from the Chelsea youngsters, but not from the supporters.
I think if you step up ahead of the game into any walk of life, really, you've got to do it. You've got to do the senior stuff, even though you're a junior. And if you can't do it, whatever,
more so than ever now.
Yeah. I mean, it is instant.
But all I'm really looking at in this is there aren't as many youngsters at the very top level as there are further down.
But a lot of 23, 24-year-olds, which is
how it always was.
Yeah.
Okay, that's young players. Old player.
Well, he's 34 and he'll be 35 in May. Raúl Jiménez of Fulham, of Mexico, of course, once of Wolves, who can do two things very well, and he's made a career of it. One is score headers, and two is convert penalties. In Fulham's win at Sunderland, he did both in pretty quick succession. He's now, as we speak, scored 13 out of 13 penalties in the Premier League. It's the highest, 100% record still going. Cole Palmer, well, has had plenty of penalties recently, but he's 18 out of 19. He failed with one against Leicester. So I think the miracle of Jimenez is the head injury, the fractured skull, and the brush with death. It's not an exaggeration to say that. In that incident at Arsenal a few years ago now, and nobody thought he'd come back. And when he would come back, he'd be nothing like the player that he was. And he would probably tell you, well, I can't quite do this, I can't do it. Of course, he's aging as well as the injury to deal with. But to still be, and he is a number 9, as we've been talking about, and to simply head in a corner at something, of course, some go, well, that shouldn't happen. But it takes a certain player to want to do it and to be able to do it. And he constantly does that in a team that probably doesn't create a huge number of chances for him. But when a penalty comes around, you wouldn't have a Kieran Trippier in the Fulham ranks saying you're not taking the next one, because he's got this skill of waiting for the goalkeeper, not looking at the ball, looking at the goalkeeper. And really, if you get that right every time, you will score every time, as he continues to do. So Raúl, who's also, I live in that part of Surrey where he and his family live. He's very popular when he goes shopping with the other housewives. I can say that as well. He's a handsome man and a very handsome forward.
Yeah. I've stretched the idea of old boy to go back 8 games for the North London derby. There's a lot of publicity about Arsenal having won the last 5. Tottenham haven't won any of the last 8. The one before that, they won by a margin of 3 goals to 0. This was May 2022. That's a theme, this podcast, 2022. This was the Tottenham team. I don't think it's that great a team. So what I'm really looking at is saying, why was that so much more successful than since? Antonio Conte was the manager, coach. In goals, Hugo Lloris, a back 3 of Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer and Ben Davis, substituted for the last 10 minutes by Joe Rodon. Right wing back, Emerson Royal. Midfield, Rodrigo Bentancur fit, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg and Orion Sessegnon. Number 10s, Dejan Kulusevski, substituted by Lucas Moura with 20 minutes to go. Sung Ho-min, substituted by Steven Bergwijn with 20 minutes to go. And Harry Kane up front.
Well, there's your answer. Harry Kane up front. End of argument. Harry Kane plays up front even in the 2 this season, and we'd had a different outcome. I'm not saying that Spurs would have won, but the games would have been much more competitive. And Kulusevski, who's still a Spurs player.
Son.
And
Son. And Son.
Well, no, Son was in his pomp then. Yeah, so they had firepower, and you see Bentancur's still there, isn't he? And Ben Davis is still there, and Kulusevski we haven't seen, and others have moved on, and some have moved on again. So
if I look at Tottenham now, it's not just missing star players. It's missing Odegaard and Maddison with ruptured ACLs, Kulusevski, who's had surgery on his right patella in his knee, Bentancur, Porro and Udogie have hamstring injuries. Kudus has a quad injury. That can be really difficult to get over. Davis, Berryval, as you say we should call him, and Danso have ankle injuries. And of course, Christian Romero has a brain injury with his number of suspended games.
I'll let his lawyers deal with you. It's a terrible time for them. And, Solanke's started to play again, but hasn't played much this season. I mean, Maddison is a really big mess for that.
And Kulusevski.
We'll talk about Kulusevski. Maddison, because he doesn't actually put his foot on the ball, but he's the kind of player who can put his foot on the ball and look up and create and spot the weaknesses in the opposition, and they'll be the better. I mean, they are where they were at the end of last season, as we speak, which is very worrying. You and I both remember Spurs getting relegated in the mid to late 1970s. So
75, I think it was. I mean, that game was played at the end of the 21-22 season. Manchester City were top. With 89 points from 36 games, just 2 to go. Liverpool second, 86 points. Chelsea third, 70. Arsenal fourth, 66. Tottenham fifth, 65. Right now, Tottenham is 16th with 27 games played, 29 points. I mean, it's terrible.
It's very concerning. And it does seem to me that the new structure of this family, really, isn't it? They're the new members of the board have got to learn fast what actually it is when you've got the ultimate responsibility for it.
I believe what's happened and what hasn't been talked about enough is that from the time that Harry Redknapp became manager and got them into the Champions League in the first time, to the time that Mauricio Pochettino left, having got them to the Champions League final, they massively overperformed on their budget. And I don't think their budget has been strong enough to support the team where it was through the 2010 to 2019 era.
Well, they have to loosen the purse strings, because I can't believe they're that short of money to be able to not be able to do that. But I do, looking at football generally, if they were to be relegated, it would be very sad for Spurs and their fans and their business and everything. But that's what happens if you don't do it well enough. And we're going to talk about something else about promotion relegation. It is a mainstay of our football and why we love it. And nobody's immune from it. And the entitlement to try and create a situation where people think they're immune from it might just be a reminder that if you cannot get it right on the field, this is 2 seasons running now, they cannot get it right on the field, then you have to pay your dues. And you have to go back down. And yeah, people say, oh, we could come back stronger. Well, maybe they could. They probably would. And they're not down yet. But this sort of, oh, well, they have to be, the Premier League would be weaker without any of the clubs, from the league leaders all the way down, all of the ones that have won leagues in great history. Any of the club, no one is indispensable. And football's got to realise that. And I'm afraid for the owners who think that their club is an absolute given to be in the top flight, we're not going to stand for anything that makes that you can buy your way to stay. Of course, in a broader sense, you can, because you've got more money. But that Spurs, I believe, do have plenty of money. But the truth is, they are where they are because what matters is what happens between 3 and 4:45, as we used to say, whatever time you kick off, for those 90 plus minutes now. If you mess it up, you deserve to get relegated. And I don't care who you are.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. The joy of football. Your player?
Yes, I mentioned it very briefly earlier. Bodø, Glimt, as it is correctly pronounced, Bodø. I was on duty for their game, the first leg against Inter. We can't talk too much about the outcome because the second leg hasn't been played and I'm on duty for that. So maybe in the next podcast. But they have
Inter leading the Serie A by 10 points.
Fantastic Inter. I think it's only the 4th or 5th time in the history they've got 20 wins out of the first 25, 21 out of 26 now because they beat Lecce away in their most recent game since the game in Norway. And there are other issues I'll mention after, but the player I'm talking about is Jens Petter Hauge, who is 26. He was born in Bodø. He came through got a first professional contract at 16, I think, and then went away, believe it or not, to Milan, but not to Inter, to AC Milan, and had a year there, didn't really crack it, and was loaned out, and then came back. So he was away for a couple of years. He's got 5 Champions League goals this season, having scored against Inter, 2 against Tottenham, which we should still give him credit for, although we've just been very negative about Spurs, in a draw. 1 away to Borussia Dortmund, who were the finalists not that long ago. 1 at home in a marvellous win against Manchester City, and a crucial one against Inter that got them back in front after Inter had equalised midway through the match. And he sort of sums up. He's a wideish player, but comes in and scores coming in on the angle as he did in most of these goals we're talking about. He's just plays head up, and he's a talent. At 26, I'm not sure whether anyone will go and get him and take him away. And presumably the funds they're raising by success, they'll have the sort of money to keep him in a contract. And he's had a go at it. Like a lot of Scandinavians, they go and some of them stay forever and others come back. And he's one of the ones that's come back. It's a really incredible team. They play the fastest transition you could ever wish to see. But they do it on the help of a very, very artificial surface. And there've been complaints from Inter about the standard of it, actually, because Lautaro Martinez, obviously the captain and the key player for them in their title chase, got injured and came off after an hour. They then conceded the 2 goals. They went from 1-1 to 3-1, and didn't play against Lecce. Not going to play in the second leg, and it's been put down to that the plastic pitch wasn't to a sufficient standard. Now that's their saying, not me. But I don't like them. I think there's a very good reason why the top leagues around most of the countries we call top football countries don't have them. The players don't want them. And the only way for it to work is for everybody to have them. Like in field hockey, the game, when I had a great uncle who played for England at field hockey.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he played on, I saw him play a couple of times when I was very young. But it was all on the sort of grass we play football on. Then they changed the game. The game is now played totally on artificial grass, and it's a better game for it. Now, whether it would be a better game for football to do that, I hope we never have to try and find that out. But it isn't a better game at the moment because the vast majority of people don't play on it. It's a massive advantage. And when you look at teams that have got out of the National League, like Bromley and Sutton and Harrogate on plastic pitches, and then they have to take them up, and then you're tested. Sutton have come back down again, but they had 3 good years, and credit to them for doing it. Something my club, Woking, have never been able to do. But we still play on grass. And I think in the National League now, there's only one artificial surface, which is Tamworth. And it's unlikely that they will get up, but you have to take it up again. Why do you have to take it up? Because the PFA don't want their players, particularly the older players, and Lautaro Martinez isn't in the youngster, so he's felt for it. But if you played on it all the time, that's fine, that's fair. But if you play one game on it in a 52-game season, it's not fair.
No. Bodø Glimt in an Arctic Circle.
Yeah, it's amazing. They'd create, I think, took 80 tons of snow off the pitch.
Really?
But I've watched a lot of the games. You imagine in prep, and I've watched. They had a great run, and they got the semi-finals of the Europa League last season. They've done well in the conference. Yeah, Tottenham. And I've never seen it snow during a game, and all this snow lying around, and it never snowed during the game. So I don't know whether they've got some magic powers up there that maybe the floodlights and the northern lights all just keep it nice and regular. But the pitches, listen, they play very well on it, and we'll see what the second leg brings. They're a good team. They've won away games, so they won in Atletico Madrid to get to even stay in the Champions League. Finish 23rd, 25th, and you're out. So, and into the 10th when they could have gone into
Great
the top
story.
8.
Great story.
It's a great story, and it's not over yet, and I'll bring you the next episode next time.
My player is Vinicius, who has been in all of the headlines. I happened to be watching the game when the incident took place between Gianluca Prestiani and him after he scored that unbelievable goal in Benfica. He scored it, he cut inside and just hit this extraordinary angled shot with his right foot from the left across the goalkeeper and inside the palm, upright. He ran to the corner flag and he did a dance to the corner flag. Basically, he made love to the corner flag, which is probably about as good as
I think I should stop you there, Neil, because probably what it's about is not fit for even our older.
The Benfica supporters threw things at him, and the Benfica players picked up on that and started going mad. And then we had the Prestiani incident when he lifted his shirt over his mouth and said something. And Vinicius went crazy and went to the referee. What Vinicius did was not worthy of anything to bring the crowd to such disgraceful attitudes. It was not worthy of anything that led to, whether it was racist or homophobic or whatever slurs. It was not that far removed from what that great Cameroonian striker in 1990, whose name suddenly escapes me, World Cup.
Roger Miller.
Roger Miller did. Well done. After scoring every goal in that tournament, he went and did a little dance at the corner flag. And everybody loved him for it. But no, now where everybody feels, as you would say, entitled they've got to ruin the incident.
I think one thing that it's, I agree with what you said, Neil, totally, and it's abhorrent. But what it has spoilt was the wonderful moment, because it probably didn't help that they played each other just before the previous month, and Trubin scored that amazing goal, and people have been talking about that, and now that's been surpassed. The matches between Benfica and Real Madrid will have this at the top of the agenda. If somebody says, "Oh, Benfica v Real Madrid," will remember. And apart from the fact that the incident itself is dreadful, it's a shame that something wonderful in football, which everybody around the world absolutely adored, and maybe not the Real fans, because obviously it did matter to them. But the truth is, that was fairy tale stuff that we love. And now we've had something that what's happened at the weekend before we're talking here in the podcast, again, with abusive messages and social media, it's a free hit that shouldn't be allowed. I do understand the argument about anonymity for certain people who are in awful situations in the world, but this is not a price we should have to pay for even that freedom. People should be hunted down and prosecuted, and their names should be spread far and wide to try and at least act as some deterrent for just the awfulness of. The sport is not for. It's learning how to win and learning how to lose. And that, I think, defines people's personalities if they can do that. And the vast majority of football fans, even though they can lose a bit grudgingly, but they know, especially if they know that they've been beaten fair and square. But to blame one of your own players because he's missed a chance, as happened in one of the Premier League games the weekend, in such a way, another one who missed a penalty, it's just, it makes me sick to my stomach.
All I want to say about Vinicius is he is the joy of football. If you watch him regularly, he is the joy of football. He's getting picked on because he's so good. He's getting picked on because he's an outrageous personality, but that is what makes him so appealing to a lot of people. He is not deserving of the negative stuff that's happening both in the Spanish stadia and on the pitch now. Every club would love him. Every supporter would love him. He is the joy of football. Right. That's that from me. Next up, Martin Tyler's letter from the Gantry.
Letter from the Gantry.
Well, I hope, Neil, this reflects the joy of football as well. An entirely different character that I'm going to talk about, but one that everybody knows well. I've been on Gantries with a microphone in hand, extolling the virtues of James Milner for over 23 years, during his time at Leeds, at Newcastle, Aston Villa, Manchester City, Liverpool, and now Brighton. He began in November 2002, then the Premier League's second youngest player, 16 years and 309 days, as a substitute, helping his hometown club, Leeds United, hang on for a 4-3 win at West Ham at their former Upton Park home. He reached the record of 654 Premier League appearances by playing virtually the whole game in another very important away win for Brighton at Brentford, 7 weeks past his 40th birthday. And he overtook Gareth Barry, whom he lined up alongside at Villa and at City and with England. For Millie, as he's universally known in the game, it is a monumental achievement, born of enduring talent and remarkable tenacity. As a 7-year-old Leeds fan, he watched the club's starlets win the FA Youth Cup against the holders Manchester United, proving that Old Trafford's class of 93 was not as unbreakable as that of 92, though several members remain. The ambition was kindled and has never waned. When he broke into the first team himself, at younger than Youth Cup age, I was taken to one side by one of football's wisest men. The late Jimmy Armfield was a former England captain, member of the World Cup winning squad, Leeds United manager, and by this time an advisor to the England setup through the FA. "Martin," he almost whispered, "we've got a good one here. Young Milner at Leeds. The trouble is we don't know what his best position is." "Anywhere you need him," has been the answer. He certainly had attacking qualities. In 2 of his last Premier League games before he turned 17, he scored in Leeds wins at Sunderland and at home to Chelsea. James's versatility might have worked against him for a time, though he never fell into the category of jack of all trades, master of none. Yet there was a prevailing feeling that an outstanding body of work with England under-21s would not create a pathway into the senior team. He won 46 under-21 caps, a record for England at that level. By then he was playing at right back, finishing as England reached the 2009 final of the UEFA competition at that age group in Sweden. After the 4-0 defeat in the final by a German side, several of whom would win the World Cup 5 years later, there were still plenty of doubters. There had been no full cap to set alongside his outstanding service at the under-21 level. Yet within 3 months, he started out on a senior international career that would bring even greater reward, 61 caps in all, to set alongside his clockwork-like excellence season after season in the Premier League. Gareth Barry, incidentally, played 53 times for England. They were cut from very similar cloth. Now, I worked at Yorkshire Television for 5 years and learnt to recognise a regional characteristic which has been a crucial ingredient for legions of sports stars produced by the county. It is a deep-seated wish to succeed, to consistently seek the highest standards, to make the sacrifices necessary that take you to the top. A will that is probably best described, and with nothing other than total respect, I say, as sheer bloody-mindedness. James Milner has always demanded those levels of himself and those he works with and for. His current chief executive, Paul Barber, who has similar values, told me a couple of years ago that rarely a week goes by without a call from Millie, suggesting that some arrangement for the team could be done better or could have been done better. Unrelenting off the field then, as well as on it, and now with a much-merited Premier League landmark to his name. A hard-nosed professional, but with a great heart. The man who changed his Brighton squad number to that of the late Diogo Jota as a tribute to a much-loved former teammate. He's been quietly aware that a piece of Premier League history has been getting closer, but has never been one to make a fuss. I would suspect that it is only the next game that matters to such a consummate professional, a real pro's pro. But a modest man has reached a magnificent milestone. And it is time, James Milner, to take a bow.
Brilliant, brilliant. Do you think that retiring from England not late, quite early, suited him in that he could play on and play on and play on? I think there are a number of people that may have happened to. Paul Scholes, maybe.
Yes, I don't think, I feel that he probably felt that he couldn't achieve much more with England, I would guess. And wanting to play on is just, I mean, I can imagine him going into management, although I haven't heard him say anything about that, but I can imagine him and then leading the five-a-sides just to play football. I mean, he was an excellent athlete as a boy at school, cross-country champion. He's also very bright academically as well. I think all those things help because he's thought his way through all these years and all these appearances, as well as physically pushed himself through it, you know. He's a really engaging guy. He's made a lifestyle choice.
And he's gone into some big clubs. I mean, Newcastle were a big club when he joined them, which they are again now, but they had a dip in between. Villa, I mean, we're getting to the final stages of cup competitions and everything when he joined them. And of course, Manchester City and Liverpool, he won trophies.
Got to a final with Aston Villa, didn't he? The League Cup, and scored, I think, scored a penalty when there should have been a sending off. I think that's one of the things that he might regret, that when things didn't go his way.
You wouldn't say he's gone to a club and failed to perform.
No.
Anyway, it is extraordinary. And he's just played and played and played.
And the same for Gareth Barry, who also was a football fan. I think it's very important to Not everybody who goes into football and is good at football actually loves the game, wants to watch the game. Gareth Barry probably won't thank me for saying it, but he was a season ticket holder at Tottenham. I did sneak on him to some of his Manchester City teammates once in a while, and they didn't know. They really didn't know. He kept that quiet. But that's kind of, boys' dream. Go and watch a game. They're watching teams at the highest level happen to be their clubs of choice or their families' clubs of choice. And then you are, all those years later, on this wonderful roll of honour.
I didn't know that Gareth Barry was a season ticket holder.
There you go.
You plummeted in my imagination. A legend.
Yeah, proper legend.
Right. Letter from the Gantry. Remember, you can read Martin's letters from the Gantry on our substack.com site, which you can find obviously on your laptop or your phone. It's under The Joy of Football. And by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the podcast, do it now.
Please.
Thank you.
Please.
He says. Do it. I say. Right. And we're going to hear from you now because it's time for one of our feedback sessions. Thank you very much. Lots of feedback recently, Martin. So are you ready? This is Rob Pattison responding to us, talking in Three of the Best about Juninho, Middlesbrough.
Ah, yes.
Wonderful to hear Juninho get a mention. The best player I've seen in a Middlesbrough shirt, although the incredibly underrated Tunkai Sanley would run in close in my opinion. I believe Juninho lived in a local neighbourhood and used to play football in the street with children. It's remarkable that a small town club were able to attract players such as Juninho, Ravanelli and Emerson, but we must have had the money to throw at it. There were rumours that we had agreed a deal to sign Gabriel Batistuta and that we were in talks with Roberto Carlos and Paul Ince, who would later play for us. But it all obviously hinged on us avoiding relegation. But Juninho was special.
It reminds me of the fact that Sheffield United came within a whisker of signing the teenage Diego Maradona. Alex Sabella, who actually went on to manage Argentina, didn't he? He was the one who came instead. And I was working for, that was in my 5 years' times at working for Yorkshire Television. Maradona was just on the rise. We hadn't got to, he was left out of the 78 World Cup squad. Because around that time, Harry Haslam was the manager, real extrovert character. And as the years went by, they realised, imagine had that happened, Diego with a Sheffield accent.
Sir P responded to the Liverpool-Manchester City game at Anfield recently when Szoboszlai got sent off for stopping the ball going in the net by pulling Haaland back. But it still went in the net when Haaland pulled Szoboszlai back in retaliation. But the goal wasn't given from a shot near the halfway line by, I've forgotten who was it?
Cherky.
Oh, Jerky, that's right, yeah. Sir P says, it was the correct decision by the letter of the law, but not by the laws of emotion. People forget referees have to follow the rules and they get queried when they don't, which can affect the level of the game. And not all games are played the same. Yeah, but maybe the laws of emotion should come into it sometime.
19th law, is it? I'm getting confused with the golf hole. I mean, the extra law one is the law of common sense, and whether that would have applied, it was a shame. But we mentioned last time it didn't change the outcome of the points, and we would have still been debating it had it done so. A ref between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. I don't blame the ref, but I would have lauded the ref had he let it go. We had a couple of podcasts preparing for the World Cup already on centre forwards, one about France and one about Brazil. Alan Lake has responded to the one about France. If France can fit Mbappe and Ekitike in... not the way you spelled it, Alan, Ekitike in the same team and Dembele as well, then the French are going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'd love to have seen another penalty taker for the second penalty. This is England-France in the last World Cup. I knew Kane was going to miss. that the keeper had outbrained Kane. I saw him step up, and the commentary team were talking about what's going through Kane and the keeper's minds. The missus said, he'll score. Kane will outfox the keeper. I said, I'm not too sure. He hit it. I can't remember if he went the same way as his first, but he knew he'd have to strike it harder if he went the same place. He tried to put it right out of the keeper's reach, which he did, but over and wide. I think a different player should have taken it. I believe we could have gone on to win. I think the momentum would have swung England's way, but it wasn't to be.
Well, the fact is the goalkeeper was Hugo Lloris, who's Harry Kane's teammate. So a lot of the thinking would have had a bit of history to it as well. That it's in the record books, isn't it? Can't change it.
We had a long discussion on here about the final of AFCON, the African Cup of Nations, and about the way that Morocco handled some of the edge of the pitch activity. And this is from, I only report it, the real Debussy farts is his name. Just on the towel shenanigans, Morocco should have been made to forfeit. What an absolutely disgraceful display. And the complete lack of intervention by referees and security is baffling. They absolutely tried to rig that in Morocco's favour and they still couldn't win. Shameful. What's even worse is the complete cognitive dissonance going on with the media and their absurd attack on Senegal.
Well, Neil, it's amazing that you have picked this particular piece of feedback because you know only too well that I got back from Morocco yesterday. And there are a couple of things. I know you like Hakimi. He's the only member of the side whose shirt is being displayed, all the replica shirts, not all of them genuine, I possibly think. But Hakimi still, his standards are still he's still rated as highly. I saw one Brahim Diaz shirt
who missed the resulting penalty.
Yeah. We're not in the business of conspiracy theories, but I had a couple of sensible conversations with real football fans. And I was in Marrakesh where they have a top division side and where was a venue for the AFCON, for the earlier games. And the only thing that intrigued me, and I just pass it on as it was told to me, was we don't know what happened when everybody was in the tunnel, or everybody but Sadio Mane and actually Ismail Assar as well, we think. And maybe in years to come, I did the 1978 game between Argentina and Peru, finished 6-0. Ever since that game was played, there have been accusations of shenanigans going on before and halftime and whatever. Nobody has proved anything. And there's so many people involved. You think one person would come out and say, actually, so I doubt this conspiracy theory, but that's what they're talking about. I can tell you, very up to date, that's what they're talking about in Moroccan football at this present time. And it was a wonderful place to visit. And it was 29 degrees, having left England at 3 degrees. So.
Couscous, tagine.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Yes.
Brilliant.
Very, very nice.
Okay, we move on. We had Mickey Thomas on the weekend after Manchester United went out of the FA Cup and Wrexham went through in the FA Cup, two of his former clubs. Jonathan Hughes has written, Mickey Thomas, legend. And then about Wrexham, what people don't understand is the amount of money the club is generating through sponsorship and merchandise sales, etc. With the addition of the Allen family and Apollo, we're better placed to make the step up than people realise. My club, Chelsea, have drawn them in the FA Cup. Everyone's going to struggle for a ticket. Their capacity is 10,500, and I think away clubs get 1,500.
So in the FA Cup, you get the percentage, don't you? It's not like a league visit.
Yeah, but if the ground can't segregate, you get what you get, and I believe it's 15.
I've been twice there as a visiting coach with Woking, and then it was about 6,000-7,000, but it was full. So there's a very relevant point about it's not just Hollywood anymore, but the fact that Hollywood has made such such contribution, and then the USA have made such a fuss of it. It's had two things really. One is that it's involved this extra investment, and two, there are Americans waiting to get in planes off from all over America to land in England to buy English clubs at whatever level. Woking are owned by an American, Todd Johnson, and smaller clubs down beneath the National League of the Pyramid are also being invested in by Americans. Not everyone's going to be quite like Wrexham now.
No, but if Tottenham seems to have been badly run, I'm not talking about the ownership level, but at the whole hierarchical management level, wherever the blame lies, to get themselves into the position they're in with the income that they have generated. Wrexham, the exact opposite. They just seem to have been superbly run.
I don't think there's been any tariff put on Wales, has there, by the latest announcement from the president.
From there to the last episode, which was with Hal Robson-Kanu, or as we discovered and weren't really aware, Thomas Hal Robson-Kanu.
Yeah, that was really, I mean, one of our producers called him Thomas when we were just between bits. And I went, has he brought his brother with him or something? But it is Thomas, and it always was.
Yeah.
Hal, because Henry is his second name?
His second name, and there was a Thomas in the youth team.
That's right. He wanted
his grandmother suggested
Hal.
Yeah. But he, of course, spoke about the pain he suffered from his two anterior cruciate ligament ruptures, and also his new career with his turmeric company and health shots. Andy from New Hampshire in the United States. The joy of football is always excellent. This episode with Robson-Kanu is fascinating. A career and life on a road less travelled, a desire to make changes with his dad, find answers beyond synthetic painkillers, career saving for him, life-changing for others. Absolutely compelling listen.
I couldn't agree more.
And we're going to end feedback by going back to the beginning of the season, when your letter from the Gantry was about the loss at the age of 89 of your friend and colleague, commentator Gerry Harrison. Martin Booth has written saying, I was lucky enough to meet Gerry a couple of times, and he was a smashing bloke, just as you say. He was also one of my favourite commentators. His work on the classic USSR Belgium at Mexico 86 was pitch perfect.
He knew the game, and that's he was able, an educated man, but it didn't mask his love for the game. He didn't think himself out of love to be, if you like, academic with his work. He really cared about it, and I think, obviously, I feel the same. That's why we got on very well. He in this country, probably because he worked mostly for regional television, he's not as revered as much as he should be. So it was a sad reason for writing the letter, but one that deserved to be written.
Lovely. And if you want to get yourself in feedback, or even if you don't, you can say so, and you just want to communicate with us, we love it. Thank you very much indeed. That's it for this episode, except we have stoppage time.
Stoppage time.
What's numbers on the board?
About 10 minutes. The joy of football. Let's start with the fact that the Premier League is going to the wire. So obviously it's in the hands of both Arsenal and Manchester City, because Arsenal have to go to Manchester City. So the two top clubs, at the moment, they're 5 points apart, and City have a game in hand. But of course, City-Arsenal could be the absolute decider. It's similar in Spain. 25 games down, 13 to go. Barcelona 61 points, Real Madrid 60. Real Madrid lost at the weekend. They were leading up until then. It's the same, believe it or not, in France. where Paris Saint-Germain aren't getting all their own way. And there's 11 games to go, only 34 games now in France because they've got an 18 club top flight. Paris Saint-Germain, 54 points. Lens, 52. Have Lens ever been in the Champions League? I don't remember them in it. And then there's a gap to Lyon, 45. Marseille down in fourth place, 40, are going to struggle to qualify. But yeah. Lens making a real show. And Lyon back in the conversation after so many years. It's not the case in Italy.
Before you go into it's not the case, let's point out it is the case in Scotland, where Hearts have come in to rival the old firm, who've had different ways their problems this season. And, Hearts, from the southern part of the UK perspective, we think, oh, well, the top two usually go through. But I'm old enough to remember Dundee United and of course, Alex Ferguson with Aberdeen. And Hearts have won the title, but it was a long time ago. One of my best friends is a Hearts fan, so I'm sort of living it week by week through his eyes, and I'm not saying anything against the other two clubs. I've mentioned on this podcast before, I worked in Scotland for quite a long time when Sky had lesser games, and there was lots of work for us to do north of the border as well as in the Premier League. And I got treated impeccably everywhere I went. And I don't want to prejudice that saying.
Do you think there's anywhere in the world where somebody who is not a Rangers or Celtic supporter doesn't want Hearts to win?
No, probably not. But it is, listen, it is the joy of football. It's no disrespect to the ones who win regularly. Sometimes I believe that we're not good enough as a nation to appreciate the quality that goes into winning. If it's the same again, the quality that goes into Bayern Munich, for example, they change. I know they've got they're dealing from a strong deck, if you like, but they still have to make these decisions. And if they fall from it, heads roll. So there's a lot of jeopardy on making sure you keep winning. So that is something that we should always spot up. And I think that's the consolation for a runaway win. Well, goodness me, they've done very well to run away with it, not to rubbish the rest.
Yeah, and in fact, in Germany, 23 games played, 11 left. They have an 8 points lead over Borussia Dortmund, 60-52. And in Italy, extraordinarily, Inter Milan have opened up a 10-point lead over AC Milan. Lost at home at the weekend in front of 73,000 AC Milan. A 10-point lead, 64-54. And then a drop to Napoli and Roma on 50. We are enjoying a very good Premier League year.
I think every week in football, you never know what's around the corner. You never know what's coming from the corner, although we've got a better idea now, especially when James Ward-Prowse takes them at Stamford Bridge.
Don't.
Listen, we joust and we bait each other, but we both share this fantastic love for the game that you all love as well. Otherwise, you wouldn't be spending your time with us, and we're delighted to have you with us.
One more thing, it was this week and the opening of the MLS season in the United States and Canada. The MLS Cup holders from the playoffs into Miami, Lionel Messi and all, lost 3-0 at LAFC. But the thing that intrigued me most about the 18 odd games, the lowest crowd was 18,000. The highest was only 25,000, but most of the games were 22 to 25,000. There is a huge interest in club global football. I used to say it when I had a radio show in the States. There are two kinds of football, global football and American football. And global football is by far the more entertaining across the world. Get over it, Yanks. And it is even in
one thing
the
I would
US.
like
we
to
have a 48% US listening base, by the way.
one thing I would like to say
I know,
in defence of those
biased.
figures. Those figures aren't fantastic, but most of the grounds are full because they don't play in the big stadia.
They're about equivalent to championship crowds over here. Yeah.
And the consistency shows a lot of interest. But I've been following, I went in the 70s to the old NASL. I used to go for summer holidays and traipse around meeting all the British players who were playing in different parts of the USA. It was a wonderful way to spend time, usually ending up in George Best's bar in not George's Best Bar, George Best's Bar in California, where you might bump into Elton John and people like that. But I have to say it, and it was said by the president of the USA, and I'm going to say it with more conviction: you have to have promotion and relegation. And then this level you've got to, by climbing and climbing, it will go through the roof if you do that.
They're not interested. It's not part of their investment.
Well, then it will stay as it is.
Yep, agreed. That's it.
I think they will be interested. I do think there'll be somebody out there who's brave enough to do it. The head of the league, the MLS, and there are people out there from other European countries who can have some influence and push it. Create a structure, create a pyramid. It'd be the biggest pyramid in world football. And imagine what it would be like to be at the top of that.
From Martin and me.
See you.
All done then. Don't forget, Patreon to get more involved. Subscribe because it helps. And substack.com to read us, Joy of Football. So Martin, little break for you in Morocco. Did you get to see
brownie points?
Did you get to see a game?
No, I can't believe this. So my last night, there was a Saturday night, and we were out with my partner. We were out doing, the things you do when you're away, and making sure she has a good time and everything. And so we're going back in the taxi to the hotel, and the taxi driver says, "Oh, we can't go back to the hotel. The road's blocked off." And I go, "Oh, why is the road blocked off?" "It's football," he said. And the fair Debbie, my partner, said, "Do you want to go?" And it was just too late to go. But if I'd have known an hour earlier, remember I took her to see PAOK Salonika in the Champions League qualifier when we were on a cruise in Greece.
What a treat.
She's a lovely lady, and I would have gone. And I missed it because of that. If I'd have been 20 minutes, if I'd been quicker paying the bill at the restaurant, everything, I'd have got back. It was Marrakesh, who have a team in the top division. And worst of all, Neil, and you would understand this, everybody would understand this, I'm sitting back at the hotel and the cheers are going around. You could hear everything. It sounded like a great game.
Did they win?
I didn't dare look it up because if it had finished 5-4, I would have never forgiven myself.